I'm Johnny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. Well, I was enjoying the moody weather of Snowdonia recently and the driving roads, Richard, and of which I still maintain, and I know I might have to put my Evo driver's gilet on now, but it is still never ceases to bring so much joy to the satisfying sweeps and the surfaces of the roads. I do love them around there. But the reason why I was there was I was filming various things for the Late Break Show. However, don't want to talk about interesting stuff like that. I want to talk about less interesting things because that's what this podcast is about. It made me remember as I drove past a very rural house with a Vauxhall Frontera on someone's front lawn on bricks, which I haven't seen a Frontera for ages.
I haven't seen a Frontera since I went to an event at Bicester Heritage and Paul Cowland out of the television was there with a Frontera that he just bought.
Oh, he has.
Was absolutely clean as anything.
He has got a clean one, hasn't he? Yes.
And because we know what Cowland's like, he just can't help himself. He's a big magpie for cars that nobody else particularly wants.
Yes.
And because I said, "Why did you buy this?" and he went, "Well, just couldn't resist it."
It was there.
Yeah,
it'd be a bit like the Happy Mondays and just bowls full of drugs. if there were Happy Mondays in a Wetherspoons and there was a big bowl in the middle of the room with What's-Its, Pick and Mix, and various amphetamines in it, they'd all be gone. That everything in the bowl would be gone before they'd got on to ordering any food or drinks. And you go, "Why'd you do that?" And they just all go, "Well, they were there. They were just there." I think that's Captain
I take your
Cowland.
point. I'm not sure it's entirely like that. It's more like that Sean Ryder, in the heyday of the Happy Mondays, had accidentally positioned himself as a man who attracted folk who'd sidle up to him and go, "I've got some low-mileage drugs." Or, "I know an old lady who's just died, and in her garage is a really tidy pile of drugs." And it's like, Cowland just draws. In fact, it probably is the same then, isn't it? Because I bet Sean Ryder used to get people coming up to him all the time going, "All right, mate, you want some gear? You want some good shit? Yeah." And, and he would go, "Yeah."
Do you know what you've got? You touched on something that's actually very profound. Low mileage drugs. I
don't know.
I think this is profound. Because, for a long time we've been involved in grams per kilometre with cars and the arguments about wheel to well, the energy it takes to build a car or various products. Now, I know people who live quite clean most of the time, but occasionally they will indulge in naughtiness. And it doesn't make any sense to me because they live so cleanly most of the time, and they're very careful about what they eat and they exercise, they're fit, but yet they might be willing to take stuff that they've got no idea where it's come from, no idea who's built it, cut it, whose bottom hole it's been up and travelled across borders. And I'm sorry, but to me that doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right. I wasn't expecting to talk about this on the podcast within the first 4.5 minutes, but I do think it is a bit odd because some drugs are well travelled, whereas others might be locally sourced.
Are you saying we should sort of encourage locally sourced produce?
Well, I think that's where, maybe. I mean, I don't take drugs, but if I did.
But then I sound quite naive now. I'm not entirely sure, like, where else, say, weed is grown. But are you saying for environmental reasons the police should stop shutting down those grow houses that they always seem to be encountering? Because the helicopter spots an incredibly hot house in the middle of summer and goes, "Wait a sec," and it turns out it's just entirely devoted to growing weed. There was one not far from where I used to live. There was an estate agent's advert for a flat like above a Chinese takeaway or something, and it had clearly been a grow house, and they hadn't stripped out all of the equipment before the estate agent came around and took the photos. So there was still like this really elaborate heating and ventilation system, and all these bin bags everywhere. What? It was incredible. And they just put it up as flat to rent. And you're like, flat to rent for what? Or maybe they were advertising it as ideal for growing marijuana.
Oh my gosh. Why would you do that as the estate agent? You might go, no, we'll hold fire on this one. Maybe we'll use a bit of AI. Let's just hold fire and go, rare opportunity.
Yeah, just maybe Photoshop out the hot lamps that are still in place because clearly the police haven't confiscated them yet.
Well, you might as well have like a Jim Morrison poster on the wall and some joss sticks.
I don't think that actual drug growing people have like that picture of the Mona Lisa smoking a spliff. I think they just crack on with growing drugs, but I don't know. I've never been into a grow house.
No.
So I couldn't be sure.
I haven't.
I think the closest I've been is when I was a student. I knew at least a couple of people who tried to grow sort of one rather mangy and blatantly dying marijuana plants in their bedrooms. And that never works out.
They could never work out why it didn't blossom, and that's because the curtains were drawn all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about grams per kilometre. It'd be interesting, like calories next to food is mandatory now.
Yes.
If you could, I don't know if you went and bought your drugs, but it gave you a little bit of an idea of the journey, the drug journey.
Well,
that would be
certain things. I mean, cocaine's made from poppies, right? No, coca plants, isn't it?
Yeah, poppies
is
heroin. Yeah.
So poppies grow in this country, or they can do.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the wrong kind of poppies.
Yeah, I don't know about the definition.
The coca plant presumably is happier in Colombia and Bolivia, which famously have a little side hustle going in the global cocaine trade. And so they're always going to travel quite far, but you think maybe and then MDMA is synthetic, isn't it? So
I'm pretty sure
that would you could just knock that up in Kettering if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's just...
Or ketamine. There's another one. I don't know how they make that.
Ketamine in Kettering.
Well, maybe that's... Kettering, home to quite a bit of industry, but I don't know if it's as prosperous as it once might have been in that sense.
Maybe
maybe they just need a new business.
Maybe it's a new industrial
rename the
revolution.
Town Ketamine.
Ketamine. So it's where they mine ketamine. It could be. Well, look, I wasn't intending to talk about just oodles and oodles of travelled drugs.
No,
I was talking about Vauxhall Fronteras in North Wales, and
yes,
the reason for that is because, am I right in thinking that to this day, the only car that's made it up Snowdonia, and it was done illegally, just for clarity, because you're not allowed to drive up Snowdonia, a mountain, was a Vauxhall Frontera that was subsequently dumped and the person ran away.
That's right.
Which really tickled me, because when I saw this one on someone's front garden on blocks, I just suddenly went, oh yeah, that's like synonymous with this area, because it was the car that did what others hadn't.
No, but wait. Hang on, I'm going to look this up because...
it'd be interesting to know how long ago this happened.
It's my memory that this person drove up Snowdon, left the car, everyone was very cross, they returned the car to him, and he did it again. Yeah, hang on, here we go. Snowdon 4x4 case. Craig Williams jailed for 22 months. A man who drove his 4x4 vehicle up Snowdon, now it is a Frontera, you can see it, in fact the photo caption here says, the 4x4 Vauxhall Frontera was twice found on the summit of Snowdon.
Twice?
But also, he wasn't local.
Oh.
Weirdly, I thought that this was some local loony who'd just possibly had too much Kettering. And, but no, Craig Williams is from Cheltenham.
What?
Yeah, was found guilty of 2 charges of dangerous driving. His sentence also included a 6-month jail term after he failed to show up in court for the start of the trial earlier in the week.
Hang on.
Williams' Vauxhall Frontera was found twice on the 3,560-foot summit in September 2011.
So hang on, he took the same car up there again after being convicted for dangerous driving and obviously leaving it there. What's the deal with leaving it there? Is it because he can't get away on foot quicker, can he? I don't know.
It says here the 40-year-old had admitted driving the car the first time it was discovered, some 200 metres from the Summit Cafe, but denied it was dangerous. He also denied being responsible for taking the 4x4 up the mountain again a few weeks later, this time reaching the peak. Giving evidence, he told the jury it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't that dangerous. There wasn't a soul on the landscape in the hours of darkness. There were 50 to 60 mile per hour gale force winds. The rain was hard, but he insisted there are higher gradients on a public highway.
Oh, well, I mean, his arguments are interesting. Doing it at night, I suppose, is safe. Nobody really climbs mountains at night, I don't think. To be honest with you, I'm totally shocked and also dismayed that Vauxhall have never used this in an ad campaign for any of their vehicles. I mean, they don't build a full-time four-wheel drive anymore. I'm just saying that slowly as I'm thinking.
Well, the Frontera is back now, isn't it? But it's an EV. I think you may be able to get a four-wheel drive one, but...
well, should we do it again then?
It's not. No, because, well, so this man... He said the second visit to the summit had been carried out by another person who'd taken his car without his knowledge or permission. He claimed he later found a note boasting, "Beat you, better luck next time." He also denied he'd driven on the rail tracks of the Snowdon Mountain Railway, causing thousands of pounds worth of damage.
Oh, really?
However, a jury agreed that the driving was dangerous and found him responsible for driving the Frontera up the mountain a second time.
Do you know what? I don't know. I've got this has got a whiff of that Shaggy song about it. It wasn't me. You know, when it's like, no, we've got real firm evidence that it was you. No, it wasn't me. You sure about that? Yeah, I found a post-it which just says, "Got further than you." There.
So this news story is from just over 12 years ago. So he did, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail for the first dangerous driving conviction, 10 months for the second one, and a further 6 months for failing to answer bail at the start of his trial.
Bloody hell.
So a total of 22 months in prison he was sentenced to. I mean, I don't know, he'd have got out a bit early if he didn't drive a Frontera through the prison. And so he'll be out of jail now.
Do you think...
I presume he hasn't tried it again. Maybe they confiscated the Frontera, I don't know.
I think he's maybe for charity, he should be sponsored to do the Three Peaks Challenge, which is obviously it's quite common.
Without ever getting out of his car.
No, he'll just have a tie-dye T-shirt on, won't he? He's definitely this guy. What's his name again, sorry?
Craig Williams.
Craig is definitely the cousin or the brother of narrowboat dwelling, full suspension, no name, full suspension mountain bike guy.
Holy hell.
Isn't he?
He really is. I've just found a picture of him.
Is he?
He's got the look. He's slightly hollow cheeked and he's wearing a camo anorak and a black unbranded cap. I think he is maybe this is it. We found the crown prince of no name full suspension mountain bike, guys, and it's...
I've got this image of him.
Frontera Snowden, man.
I've got this image of him. Even when he was banned from driving, probably, he was stockpiling Fronteras frantically on his front garden so that when the time came to get his licence back, and obviously the Frontera long gone in petrol form, he's like, nah, I've got enough to see me through my rest of my days now. I've got a V6 one, got a diesel one, got a 4-cylinder petrol. I'm done. I know what I'm doing. I'm building one for every peak. He'll just drive. He's a drive as the crow flies guy.
I think he might be. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on in this. I found another news story which was published when the Frontera was found up there a second time.
I can't believe it was found up there a second time.
A 4x4 vehicle has been abandoned near the summit of Mount Snowdon in North Wales for the second time in a month. The Vauxhall Frontera was neatly parked next to the visitors' centre at the highest peak in England and Wales. National Park bosses, police, mountain rescue teams and the Snowdon Mountain Railway Company are working out the best way to get the vehicle down. It's thought it's the same one that was left on the mountain on the 3rd of September. Then the car was loaded onto a truck and taken down the mountain on the railway. Wow.
Rich, have you got the registration number?
I can't make it out in this picture, but hang on. It's another, just these headlines. Yeah. Annoyingly, because it's got a big bull bar thing on it with extra spotlights.
Of
on
course.
The front, so the number plate has been moved into the windscreen, and you can't quite see it.
Well, that's irritating. I was going to do an MOT check.
It's a short wheelbase Frontera, though, in case you're interested.
And if you're listening, Paul Cowland, don't try that at home or in Snowdonia, as the case may be.
So it seems like when he drove it back up again, he left a note in it saying that he was selling it on eBay to raise money for Snowdon Mountain Rescue.
Really?
But upon discovering this, sorry, I was sort of piecing together from various news reports. On discovering this, the chairman of Llanberis Mountain Rescue Team said, even if it is auctioned for the charity, we could not accept the donation as it is the result of an illegal act.
Of course. Well, there we go. So
there we are.
That's probably the most famous thing a Frontera will ever do, potentially.
Yeah.
With the consent of the Mountain Rescue, I'd love to do it in an electric Frontera, but probably won't be allowed.
We're not supposed to call it Snowdon anymore. It's got a new name, hasn't it? Well, it's got a Welsh name. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, anyway, I'm sure it's...
Foden?
Sorry to any Welsh listeners, because we couldn't.
Snowdon in a Foden. That would be a good thing to try, wouldn't it? But then
you just have to Ben Nevis in a... No, I'm stuck there.
Nevis.
There's a Trevis. Isn't there a JDM car that's... people will be shouting at us now because I can't think what it is. Anyway.
All I'm thinking of is Clevis, which there's a Clevis pin that's usually found in amongst cars. But I always think calling someone a Clevis pin it sounds to be a really snide insult.
Just a Clevis. Calling it a Clevis sounds quite... You absolute Clevis.
Do you think...
And then I suppose... To complete the set, you could do Scarfell Pike on a bike, but...
Oh, yeah.
Or no name full suspension mountain bike, in fact.
Oh. Well, or in a Pike car company car with a full... But you leave the car at the top and go down on a no-name full suspension mountain bike with obviously rusty chain and brakes that haven't been checked for some time.
Yeah.
And you see what happens.
Yeah. Good. Well, there we go. If anyone is looking for an interesting way to do the Three Peaks that would involve peril and illegality, then there's your answer.
I was reading an old auction for a car. You know, when the auctions have ended, and it gives you the price that the car sold for, and it often comes up on search engines when you're idly shopping for cars that you know you can't afford. So the terminology stewardship was used. Now, when do you not own a car but you become a steward of it? Because I've noticed I think it's maybe a car. I think it's a slightly wanky classic/vintage car term.
Yes,
which it did make me giggle because I thought car stewards would be and again, it's sort of euphemism for some sort of almost religious sect of the car world, but stewardship. It said something like the car, the car has been in current stewardship since 1997.
Yes, a variation of that is custodianship.
Oh, custodian.
In its current custodianship, you mean owned? It's been owned by.
Yes,
it's pretentious toss, isn't it?
It's simply owned.
Did we talk about the terrible nonsense spouted by American collector car people and their obsession with one of one? Yeah, it's one of one because it's the only one that had, sort of that particular green paintwork with that particular beige vinyl upholstery.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's one of one. That's one of one. I know. All right, move on. No, it's Olive Grove.
Do we not just call it a one-off? We just call it a one-off.
Well, it is, but there's one-off. It just feels like it's overstating it. It's just like it has some minor spec variation that no other version of that car had. But
that's right.
I don't know. I feel like it's sometimes oversold, and it's not that interesting. Conversely, do you know what I've been reading up in the wake of the Super Bowl last week and Kendrick Lamar's performance, where he had a Buick GNX on stage,
a Regal, yes,
Regal GNX, yeah. I've been reading up about the GNX because I was sort of dimly aware that this is like muscle car royalty, but from an era when almost no one else, they weren't really making muscle cars anymore.
No, it's a ghetto supercar. It was referred to as pretty
at
much.
The time. Absurdly quick. I think I read when the American car mags tested it, it was faster 0 to 60 than anything else they tested, including a Porsche 911 Turbo.
They were very quick, and I think people also get mixed up, especially if you're not American, with the GN, the Grand National, and then the GNX. And the GNX was a higher output. Might have been a different turbo setup. I should know. Because I nearly bought one once, and I effing wish I had. Yep.
What, a GNX?
Yep.
Shatting heck.
Yep. I found one for sale. There's only about, I don't know, 3 in the UK. Might not even be there, I don't think. I found one for sale in Cornwall by a guy that was getting divorced, and he wanted 10 grand for it. This was a while ago. I wanted 10 grand for that car, and it was nice. It was really nice. But in the UK, nobody knows or nobody knew or cared about them. So it just, because it wasn't an old muscle car, it wasn't a 68 Camaro or a 69 Charger or whatever. But I absolutely love them. And our mutual friend Mike Musto from Hemmings and House of Muscle in the US, is American motoring journalist. He's got a real thing for them too. They are just, they shouldn't work, but they just do. I just think they're great.
I don't know whether in its day people were a bit snobbish about it because it only had a V6 but with a turbo on it, so it wasn't a trad V8 muscle car, but they were so powerful for their day. I think the general vibe is that they were the power, I gather from reading up about them, the power numbers were underreported, or the claims were low, so that actually most people believe they made more than, particularly because the GNX had this tricksy turbo on it and chassis mods and all sorts of other things. For people who didn't see it at the Super Bowl, Kendrick Lamar, whose most recent album is called GNX because he owns a GNX, and he's talked about how it's a childhood ambition to have one. And so he had a car on stage, but then it sort of split apart and dancers came out of the floor beneath it. And I gather people in the US were like, that better not be a real GNX, because they only made about 500, just done like 540 something of them. So they're very rare, and they are worth at least $100,000. I think a very low mileage one sold on Bring a Trailer not long ago for $200,000. So they are valuable. But it turns out that the car that they cut up for Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl show was
just a
Grand National and not a GNX.
It probably was just even a
commonplace car.
Yeah, I mean, what from memory, I don't think there was any weight saving regard for a car like that. They were a heavy, separate body chassis car, and they just de-chromed it, so all the metal was painted black. Pretty much, and it had a chin spoiler. So if you'd made it lighter with composite panels when you sold it, it would have flown even faster. But a cool thing. And quick,
really cool. I'd love to have a go in one just to see what it's like. Whether it's all. I mean, if I was going to say if it's all go and it doesn't handle or track straight, but then that would make it very muscle car.
It is what it is, and also, even if you don't like the car, there's no denying how cool the logo is on the seats. The sort of swirl for the turbo, it's with I think it's an orange and white stripe or orange and grey. It's really cool. I love that logo. Sweet logo.
Yeah. And it was the other thing about the GNX, I suppose why they only made a few of them is because it was only a one model year car.
That's
like a last hurrah for the old Regal, which was rear wheel drive. And then the following year, the Regal became sort of generic front wheel drive GM landfill, and there was no more Grand National.
the Regal became a lot
right.
less regal, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That's just a little wormhole that I fell into this week. And
We've gone General Motor heavy, haven't we? With the Frontera and the Regal GN.
Well, let's keep it on cars. Why not? As we move seamlessly into another Pistonheads auction. As you might know, every other week, this show at the moment is sponsored by our friends at Pistonheads. And as well as having lots of interesting cars for sale in their classifieds, they now do online auctions.
They do what? What do they do?
Oh, sorry, auctions.
Okay.
And so they challenged Jonny and I to each pick a car from an upcoming auction and then invite you to go to pistonheads.com/Smith and Sniff, where there is a forum thread in which you can debate which of us has chosen best in this show. So, shall I kick off with my choice this week?
Yeah. I mean, I've been truffle pigging around the auctions. I can see there's a sweet Nissan 350Z the auction will have ended by the time listeners hear this, but I saw one over the weekend and I bloody love those cars. They look great, like a 90s concept car on the road.
Yeah.
What's your weapon of choice?
This auction is going live. If you're listening to the show when it comes out on Monday, this is going live tomorrow, the 18th of February. It's a 1992 Land Rover Defender 110 County. V8 manual.
Ah, right. I've got it. I've brought it up.
Several things caught my eye about this. A, Land Rover. B, Defender. C, 110. But then V8 manual. And as an added thing that really piqued my interest, I noticed straight away that the number plate ends in the letters AC. In fact, it's WAC are the last three letters. It's an L reg. And I was like, oh, that's a factory car. Because around that time, they always seem to be registered with an AC suffix. And so I assume this was, I don't know if it was a press car or if it's a management car or what, but...
it stands for woeful air conditioning. Is that what it stands for? In which case, I'm in.
Well, you don't like air conditioning.
I love that.
I don't see why you'd be bothered. I don't think it's got air conditioning at all because...
I'm in,
Rich. It's off that era of Defender where you can still open the flaps beneath the windscreen. So
this is
but yes,
good.
It's wonderfully scruffy on the outside, but I think if anything is going to wear it well, a lovely old 110 station wagon just looks right when it's a bit scuffed up like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a factory V8 is, I think, excellent. And also, another little note, it was previously owned by the late General Sir Frank Kitson, who wanted a petrol model as he loathed the smell of diesel from his army days. See,
that's brilliant.
It's just things like that. I just go, it is a fantastic... I've been looking at this for ages and then thinking, God, I reckon what I would do, because apparently the chassis and the bulkhead and all the bits underneath you have to look at in these cars are in good nick.
Yeah.
But I thought, if I bought this, the next move would be take it to one of those esteemed Land Rover restoration specialists and have them make it absolutely minty underneath, make the engine absolutely spanking, but keep the body as it is, because it is the definition of patinated, and I love it.
I agree, and you'll ultimately enjoy it more. And the Land Rovers do like to tell a story with their bodywork. I think that's great. So, apart from so it's ex-demo and ex-military general. So that's two previous custodians, Richard.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. Stewardship has indeed, it says two previous owners. In fact, it says in the auction listing, it's believed by the seller to have been originally supplied as a Land Rover dealership demonstrator, then passed into care of a private owner, and then was bought by the current owner in June 2000. So this has been in someone's family for 25 years.
Wow.
Lived down in Devon. and apparently it was used for fishing trips, days out, and light forestry duties.
Light forestry duties.
I know. I don't even know what that means, but I like it.
Yeah. Well, that's a strong contender. 48,000 miles.
I like to think so, but that would be I don't know how much it would go for. It's but the auction starts on Tuesday, and it's only got 48,000 miles on it as well. So it's barely been used. Well,
no, my offering then in the Pistonheads auction realm. This one actually starts on the day of this podcast going live to Patreons, which is Sunday the 16th. We have not a Land Rover. We have a Mercedes-Benz Estate E63 AMG off of 2017, but finished in white with dark wheels. It's almost a sleeper, especially when you scan through mileage 29,000, previous custodians 1, engine 4 litre twin turbo, but horsepower rating 1,033. I'll say it again, 1,033 horsepowers. This car is nothing short of effing lunacy. It's really fascinating, and it's got me gripped to the point where I'm thinking, do I just borrow some money and buy it to see whether or not it's just going to be everything I ever dreamt it would be? So you know the shape of E63, and this is the 4MATIC model where you can switch all-wheel drive, rear bias, that kind of thing.
I have a great soft spot for that particular shape of E-Class. I just think it's classically handsome, and particularly the E63 because it's really underplayed.
Yeah.
I think it's got it's got slightly wider front arches, which gives it a kind of bulldog stance.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, and the first thing I would do with this car, by the way, is debadge it, because there's fun to be had there.
There is. Yeah.
And then it just looks like I notice it's got black wheels as well. I think I'd have those made silver because it's a white car.
It's a sensible looking
silver
car,
at the
isn't
wheel.
it? It's not too...
debadge it.
Yeah.
And then just go and scalp Ferraris and 911s for fun. Because thing is, because it's four-wheel drive, I imagine that handles its power as well as anything's going to. It won't be sort of slithering all over the shop just as soon as you look at the accelerator.
Well, no, I mean, so I've been looking carefully around this. There's 146 exterior photos, 93 interior photos, 29 mechanical photos. So basically, you've got more photos than you will ever need before committing to pull the trigger on this car without actually standing next to it. But the first thing I thought was, can it actually handle that kind of psychopathic power? Because the standard E63 is 612 horses and 627 pounds-feet, which is a sodding lot. This is.
I don't remember driving one of those and going, "Oh, needs more power."
Yeah.
So I kind of admire someone who's gone, "No, it does. Really, it needs like probably another 400 horsepower would be good if you can."
It's 1,032 pounds-feet of torque, Rich. Just think about that. We're talking heavy plant stuff. That's what we're talking. It's amazing. And the person that did all the conversion works had it for 5 years, and obviously it's still only done 29,000 miles. But they seem to have really gone for it with regards to upgrades. I'm just scrolling down because there's an enormous kind of spec list, and it's got the 9-speed gearbox. This car, and of course the current E63 has been a little bit slated because it's. They've gone down to less cylinders. Is that right? It's a 4-cylinder now, isn't it?
The C has gone down to 4.
That's right. So it's got 410mm AP racing discs with Ferodo track pads. It comes with different pads if you want them for more road work. It's It's got an updated, stronger front diff from a later facelifted E63. Custom one-piece 3.5-inch downpipes, 3-inch catback exhaust system. Carbon airboxes and blow-off valve kit. Spool performance HP and LP fueling system, including rerouted fuel filter and lines. It's got a stealth aquamist water methanol injection system hidden under the boot floor. Hybrid Litco turbochargers, apparently capable of delivering upwards of 1,200 horsepower. Various heat management upgrades included increased flow from the intercooler and wrapped charge coolers. Tuned ECU. So much work has gone into this because I'm pretty sure you can't just wing it and wind it up to 1,000 without leaving the diff behind. I am besotted with this car. I think I might even be tempted to put it on steel wheels if I was to buy it.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean? This thing is so good. Somebody who listens to this, please buy it.
It's a otherwise very practical, comfortable estate car.
Yeah.
But I've just realised it's got more power and torque than an original Veyron.
Oh yeah, it has, and a much bigger boot.
I don't know whether there's anything to be read into the fact that I noticed the exterior photos have all been done on the forecourt of of St. Clair's Roman Catholic Church, according to the signs in the background.
I noticed that. I did notice
what
that.
Suggestion about the power of prayer might be there, but again, it's impossible to say what this will go for, but I hope that the winning bidder is one J. Smith.
I'd love to. And of course, if those two cars do nothing for you, go to the Pistonheads auction site, which is pistonheads.com/buy/auctions and browse like I'm doing right now. And I'm looking at a Phaeton Volkswagen V10 TDI long wheelbase, which is currently at £100. I'm pretty sure it won't sell for that because I'll buy it for £100. But there's many days of the auction left. Yeah,
smashing. Well, there we go. If you want to debate our choices, V8 Defender versus highly tuned E63, then go to pistonheads.com/Smith and Sniff.
Okay.
A couple of bits of housekeeping. First of all, the other week I was whinging about the Golf GTI that I'd just driven and the fact that you could only adjust the cruise control in increments of 5 miles an hour.
Oh, yes.
Quite a few people have got in touch and pointed out that there is a way to do 1 mile an hour increments.
Oh.
Which is to basically tap the other side of the thing. This was explained, and now I can't find any of the emails. We got loads of these emails of people explaining it and how you do it. I assume if you've got a Golf, you've probably figured this out. We did have a few people who did also go, well, I had to check the manual to find this out because it's annoying when it's not intuitive, apparently.
What, Volkswagen infotainment and button system not that intuitive at the moment?
Yeah, well, this is the new wheel with the actual buttons have come back rather than touch sensitive ones. But yeah, it's still the same layout. So yes, I think it's left and right does what your sort of looks like plus and minus. But that does 5 miles an hour. If you do up and down on the same rocker, that does 1 mile an hour apparently. But it is not obvious. So thank you to everybody who wrote in to set me straight on that. Duly noted. The other thing is we've had loads of messages in the last week about We Didn't Start the Fire, which I was talking about doing a Gen X version at our Eastbourne live show, not realising that Fallout Boy, the band Fallout Boy, have done sort of that. They've re-recorded We Didn't Start the Fire and changed all the verses to be things that are relevant to a younger generation.
See, I like Fallout Boy, but I didn't know they'd ever done that. So I got schooled on that comment as well.
Yeah, I don't dislike Fallout Boy. I just don't particularly know their work. And so this was news to me as well. But also apparently they got some stick for being a bit lazy because their list of things isn't chronological, and apparently Billy Joel's generally is.
Oh, really?
All the things are sort of it's going not precisely, but it is sort of done almost in year or certainly decade order. And Fall Out Boy just lobbed in
stuff,
everything where it went, So it's like the opening lyrics are Captain Planet, Arab Spring, LA riots, Rodney King.
Right, okay.
Deep fakes, earthquakes, Iceland volcano. So that is quite and then Oklahoma City bomb, Kurt Cobain, Pokemon, Tiger Woods, MySpace, Monsanto, GMOs. Yeah, there's just a grab bag of stuff. I don't feel like it is a bit. They've just thrown everything at it.
I want to know whether there's any hectic bongo drums in the Fall Out Boy version, because I think Billy Joel's got a few hectic bongo drums in his from memory. But wrong.
I'll tell you what. I've just come back from the dental hygienist having my teeth cleaned, and they had the radio on. And I don't know, it just looked like a sort of fairly normal, like DAB radio. But when I was being reclined in the chair, Radio 2 played Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
Hmm.
And there was something about the radio plus the acoustics of the room plus the fact I was reclined wearing some runner's sunglasses, which I realised they give you for orange-lensed wraparound awful sunglasses while you're in the chair. And the combination of these factors really brought out the sterling work of Big Mick on the tubs in that song. The drumming it's really, really intense and excellent. I was enjoying it, even though a nice lady was taking the tools to my teeth in a slightly unpleasant way.
I think if Mick Fleetwood wasn't in Fleetwood Mac, and if you just saw him on the street, you'd think,
yes,
he's the kind of guy that breeds boa constrictors and probably goes to Americana shows. That's what I reckon. He's that guy. He's probably got the ugly Camaro that no one wants, that I don't know the numbers for.
Yes.
You know, the shit one.
I would look at him and go, he teaches geography at a local comprehensive school, or he works in a lab doing something that you don't even think about happening.
A lab.
Like checking the pH of leaves.
Has he got his own like hydroponic setup at home?
Well, he might do, actually. He might. He's probably got a foldable bicycle.
Oh, is he Brompton with the...
Brompton, I don't know, he might have like some kind of weird off-brand non-Brompton that he claims is better.
He's made his own he's sawn up an old frame and he's put little hinges on it.
And he plays some kind of board game that's incredibly complicated and you've never heard of it.
What, a Dungeons and Dragons type thing?
In a club. Yeah, like that, but not that, because you've heard of that, so it can't be. It's something else. And it does use those very, very multi-sided dice.
I've just remembered another story from my recent trip to Wales with my old friend Nick. Now, Nick, we got onto the subject of Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah.
You remember Robbie Coltrane? Most younger people know him for he was in Harry Potter. That's right. And my recent trip to Universal Studios, when I went on the motorbike ride, which I've actually just suddenly forgotten the name of his character in Harry Potter all of a sudden.
Hagrid? Hagrid. His character, isn't it?
That's right. Hagrid's motorbike, which was definitely the best ride we went on there. But of course, Robbie Coltrane, prior to all that, for people who are a little bit older, he did something called Cracker, didn't he? Which is like a detective show, bit
very
gritty.
Good. Yeah.
And then prior to that, he did like a travel show called Coltrane in a Cadillac in the early 90s, I want to say.
Oh, yes.
I think it was on the BBC and it was rather good. And I'm pretty sure that Robbie might have been a mate of Jeremy Clarkson's. I can't remember. Bless him. Robbie's not around anymore. But the reason why I said this is because I was talking about it, and Nick went, I met him once in his prime, pre-Cracker, around about the Rob Coltrane in a Cadillac time. I went, did you? Went, yeah, I was staying at a hotel for work, and I got up quite early to have breakfast to go to a meeting. He said, Robbie Coltrane came down to breakfast wearing an old T-shirt and a pair of pants and barefoot. I said, what? He said, yeah, I had to double take because I thought that guy looks just like Robbie Coltrane, but he's not wearing any trousers. And he went up to the buffet, and after the second trip to the buffet, Nick went over and he said, hi, Mr. Coltrane, really, really love your work, and was going to ask you. And Robbie went, I'll stop you there. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's Robbie Coltrane. He's gone down to breakfast in a hotel without trousers on. And he said, and Nick said, yes, that's absolutely what I'm thinking. And he said, people look, often people look at me, but people don't say anything. But you're going to ask me, and I appreciate that. He said, yeah. I mean, I was just very curious. I didn't want to intrude. He said, the thing is, I'm a really mucky eater, and I've got an important meeting later, and I like to travel light. So I've left my trousers and my shirt upstairs in my room. I go down for breakfast and I don't wear those things, so that when I get the mucky, it's okay because they're yesterday's T-shirt and pants anyway. I get them dirty and I go upstairs and put my shirt and trousers on and go to work. And Nick was like, well, that's totally logical. He went, exactly. And that's why I do this, irrespective of where I am in the world. And then he shook hands and he went off, and Nick said it was the most interesting guy. And I went away from it going, oh yeah, like I'm quite a messy eater as well. So maybe I should go down to breakfast in just pants and an old T-shirt. And that's Robbie Coltrane, a.k.a. Hagrid, Cracker, whatever.
Not to suck the wind from Nick's sails, because actually that story's better than my story, because I once had dinner with Robbie Coltrane.
What?
Yeah, at the Le Mans 24. I never told you this, at the Le Mans 24-hour race.
No.
The night before the race, got invited to this dinner, and I was sitting on the same table as Robbie Coltrane.
You git.
And he was absolutely fantastic, as you'd hope. Brilliant company, loads of stories about cars. Like he loved old American cars.
Yes, this is what I've heard.
He was telling us about this. Now, I can't remember what it was, an old Buick or something, like a 50s Buick. And he bought it on a bit of a whim, I think. And he thought, this car looks really tidy. It's really tidy. It's quite low mileage, but he was like, it must have been restored. And he had a guy who looked after his cars, I think in Scotland, because this has stuck with me. Bear in mind, this was years ago. This was like 15, 20 years ago. That I just remember him going, I took it to my guy. He got it up on the ramps. He rang me up and he went, Robbie, it's not been restored. It's a new fucking car. It's a new fucking car under there. I'm telling you, it's not been restored. It's a new fucking car. And he just kept saying, and that, every time I see a car that's really clean underneath, I think, it's a new fucking car, Robbie. And he kept us entertained. But then I think I'd had a couple of glasses of wine and I was a bit like, a bit of back and forth. And he was very, very funny, but also like, he seemed like he was up for a bit of a bit of joshing. And at one point I said something in response to something he went, hey, you cheeky wee shite. But he did it with a big smile and it was all very nice. And at the end of the night, we had a nice chat. He was really, really sweet, really, really nice guy. And really good fun, as it sort of exactly what you'd hope from Robbie Coltrane.
Oh, well, so, imagine
that's my name drop story.
Imagine an evening shandy with him and Billy would be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Billy?
Yeah. What's he called?
Which Billy?
You know, the Scottish comedian guy with the trikes.
Billy Connolly.
Connolly, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Leather,
I mean,
as his mates call him.
I think Billy Piper seems like good fun. I'd settle for a drink with her and Robbie Coltrane if he was still with us.
Yeah, well, maybe all three. Billy.
Imagine.
Robbie.
Billy and Robbie.
Yeah. Or would you rather have Robbie Coltrane and Robbie Williams? Either way, it's going to be an interesting night, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think he might start to get on everyone's nerves, or he'd be...
I think his mouth might curl around a bit too much and start to look like a moustache that's actually just the mouth. That's my worry with...
But I watched that
Williams.
documentary series with him in it, and he ultimately, I thought he was quite sweet. He's clearly quite a tortured soul, and
I agree. I think
a lot of that.
a
lot of that being a bit of a knob is really just he doesn't quite know what to do with himself. So yeah, no, all right, he can come too.
Can he? That's great. But also there might be a connection there, because in one of Robbie Williams, the only Robbie Williams song that I actually like, which I might have talked about before, "Feel," with Daryl Hannah in the video. He's in a Cadillac, and I think it's a 1960 or a 61, so just post Massive Fins. Actually, might be a 62, with him and Daryl Hannah in it. And I think maybe him, Robbie, and Coltrane could chat about boxy Cadillacs. And I'd chime in now and again and go, I like them too, guys. Yeah. But then they talk about shows and stuff which I couldn't relate to, so I just go quiet.
I meant to message you the other day about this, but I was like, you're busy, and I was busy a bit. But down a wormhole, after I was looking at the Buick GNXs, for some reason, I think I went on Car and Classic and thought, I wonder if there's any for sale, which there aren't at the moment on there. But I just did a general search for Buicks, and it came up with some absolutely beautiful 50s stuff.
Yes.
And it's not mega expensive.
No. And
I was going to message you and go, is this right? Are old American cars not especially expensive? Oh, this is in this country as well. I mean, they seem to be even cheaper in the US.
Well, I think if you avoid all the movie famous models and years, there are amazing value American stuff. And I think there's a lot of, if you want incredible build quality, 40s and 50s American cars, well, I mean 30s as well, were insanely well built, but 40s and 50s, there's a lot of affordable American cars out there which are usable still. So in other words, they will do motorway speeds, and you can sit in traffic, and they're comfortable, and you can fit a whole family in, and they look really elegant, I think. So yeah, although they were well mass produced, they were bloody well made, and I'm a massive fan. So
let me tell you about the one that really caught my eye.
Go, do it.
I just found it again. It's a 1949 Buick Roadmaster sedanette.
Oh, yes.
Or sedanette? I don't know how you're supposed to say it. Do you know this?
Sedanette. Yes, I know the Roadmaster, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fastback. So it's a two-door coupe.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. And it's got a 320 cubic inch straight 8.
Oh, the straight 8, yes. It's got the crankshaft as long as a street.
I mean, who doesn't secretly want a straight 8 in their life? I don't know whether I've ever heard a straight 8 running. Oh,
it's so smooth. Like? Imagine melting a family bar of Galaxy into a bowl over a hob.
Into your ear.
It'd just be so creamy.
Chocolatey straight 8 engine.
I would love a straight 8, yeah.
I imagine it's one of those cars that when you come to a stop, the body gently sort of oscillates like a waterbed for a little bit.
Oh, completely.
It's just wonderful. It's a beautiful sort of mid-blue colour. I'm just absolutely smitten with it. It's 36,950 quid, which, it's not nothing, but for a whole hunk of car with a straight 8 engine, it feels like it's not that much. You'd cut a dash in that car easily the equal of, say, a DB5.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in many ways, it's better than a DB5 because you don't look like you're some tosser trying to be James Bond. But I think it's fantastic. And 37 grand seems like it's a lot of car for the money. Well, I absolutely love it.
And there's a lot of American cars out there which you can get for a lot less than that. I mean, the straight 8's quite a desirable engine. But I mean, I think, you know what, I was just talking to my brother day before yesterday about the fact that we owe it to a younger generation, I think, to increase the awareness and the interest in so many cars, especially kind of pre-war cars that have come and gone, that are genuinely impressive and interesting, and you can still use them. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of toss, but there's a lot of stuff that was groundbreaking and interesting. And just because it hasn't been in a movie doesn't mean to say it's like it should be forgotten. And
no.
And so, yeah, there's loads. I've always liked American cars of that era. You know that. I mean, I've owned.
I know. Well, that's why I was going to message you and go, is this right? Should we? Anyway, do you remember the name of that straight 8 engine at the time? What Buick called it?
Oh, it wasn't the Fireball. That was something else. I think.
It was.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the Fireball.
Oh,
yeah.
Amazing.
Fireball. And it's got some brilliant, there's a picture in this ad of the engine, and it's got brilliantly sort of in period American writing, like something from, a sort of comic book or something like it. It actually says, the full thing that's written on the side of the head is Buick, valve in head. And then further along it says Fireball, Dynaflash 8.
Oh, Dynaflash. Yes, that's right. That's right.
What a time to be alive in the United States, because I think probably the US, 1949, the war's over. The US probably bounced back quicker and was more prosperous. Britain was still struggling.
Absolutely.
And you, if you were doing all right, go and get your Buick Roadmaster sedannette.
Yep.
With its Fireball engine. Just cruise along smoking 9 cigarettes at once.
I love all that. And of course, America didn't suffer. The economy didn't suffer anywhere near as badly as the UK did post-war. But, well, of course, the Rain Man car is a 1949 Buick Roadmaster, but convertible.
Oh, of course.
So, and in Rain Man, if you've watched it, he talks, he waxes lyrical about the engine and about the Dynaflow auto transmission and all that kind of thing. And that exact Rain Man car sold at auction a couple of years ago, I think it was. Yeah, so I'm all in, Rich, for the straight 8 Fireball.
Yeah, so, God, I hadn't really realised, but this is basically the coupe version of the Rayman car. But anyway, look, we should bring this to a close, but before we go...
We've talked about cars at length.
I know, we did. We'll get complaints, but okay, we'll make up for next week by talking about slurry. Before we go, first thing I have to tell you is that Johnny's engaged in a slightly strange project to remake Clint Eastwood's upsetting boxing film from the 2000s, but now starring a weird 80s prog rock band with the working title $1 Million Baby. If that's not to your taste, then there is, of course, the Late Break Show. What's happening on that?
$1 Million Baby. For some reason, I knew the name of the film when I hadn't put like 1 and 1 together, as you were saying. Oh gosh,
good.
That's tickled me. What have we got? Well, we're still in Barn Find February on the Late Break Show, and the one that went live on yesterday, if you're listening to this on Monday, is Barn Find number 3, and this is probably the most intense technical barn find I've ever done. So irrespective of the car in question, we have heavy plant, we've got tractors, we've had to do basically a household removal on a real barn to get to the car at the back, all in the middle of nowhere in North Wales, which is we turned this video around quite quick because I was in North Wales filming it. And I really enjoyed this one. It was a long day, but by Jove, we had to move trees and hedges, and the car had to be extracted to go to the chap's own garage to start the restoration. And this was his late father's car, which is quite a sentimental vehicle. Look, if you want to know, it's a Mark 1 Mini Cooper. But even if you don't like minis, which you should, because there's a lot to be respected of a Mark 1 Mini Cooper, hashtag Paddy Hopkirk. I don't think anyone's ever used that hashtag, but the fact that we had to move so much stuff to get to it was the adventure, and I had a whale of a time. A whale of a time, excellent. Richard. A whale of a time.
A whale of a time.
Yes.
Excellent.
So go and watch it, and don't forget, I am giving away. I am freaking giving away a Barn Find car for Barn Find February. It's the last video of the month, and it's a 2,000-mile one-owner car that we're going to be giving away. FOC. Okay? FOC stands for free of charge. It doesn't stand for fuck off Charlie, which someone did once think it did. Okay.
All right. Second thing I've got to tell you is I've got various books out. Boring Car Trivia 4. That's the most recent of the Boring Car Trivia series. It's available on Amazon as an ebook or a paperback. Go and buy it if you have not already, as long as you enjoy arcane facts about cars. And the third thing I've got to tell you is that Marilyn Monroe and the late Her Majesty the Queen were born in the same year.
Marilyn Monroe.
Shit, that's one I could have used in future. Didn't even think of that one. Yeah.
Wow, bloody hell. What's that, not the late 20s? It's got to be.
Yeah, 1926.
Goodness.
But yeah, it's quite weird. I suppose, obviously, Marilyn Monroe is captured in time as a relatively young woman because she died in 1962. But yeah, she was, would have been the same age as Queen Elizabeth II. But only one of them, I think, is probably regarded eternally as a sex symbol.
I would say
and
so.
The other one is Marilyn Monroe.
Hey, those pictures of the Queen driving the Rover P5B, I find that very attractive indeed.
Yeah. Let's not even get into those photos of a young Princess Anne driving.
Driving a Gilbert Invader, I believe. I'm sure it was a Gilbert Invader.
Probably something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did like fiberglass apparently, but no
with folds running gear.
All right, well, thank you for listening. We'll be back on Friday with another Ottersot answering your questions. Regular show on Monday. Until then, goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye then.
So you've enjoyed this podcast, but you've had a thought. Is there a way here today that you could show support? Well, you could join our Patreon. What wonders that it brings. Early shows and extra notes on that side of things. You could buy our merchandise. We've mugs and hats, but still no ties. One day we will make those pies, but in the meantime, guys, hey guys, like and subscribe, and maybe leave a nice review. Like and subscribe, we know you know just what to do. Like and subscribe, we don't want to take the piss. Like and subscribe.